In the town of Ife, the women were beautiful, known for their rich culture and well-made food. They were fantastic cooks, and the king and queen, in all their glory, often held a ball where the queen will choose one of the maidens as the wife of a prominent and wealthy suitor. Ada and her sisters often wondered when they would attend the ball, and finally, the time had come for them to attend the ball. They were finally of age and wanted to attend the ball and pick a partner for themselves. Ada was overjoyed. She was plumpy but beautiful. So, the day of the ball came. The palace was decorated in all its finest designs. Ada and her sisters and several other beautiful maidens attended the ball. Ada danced and danced and danced. The men were taking note of the beautiful maidens, from different sizes to vibrant dresses to afro hairs. They made note of the one that made their heart beat. Ada hoped that she would find one, but at the end of the ball, she was left with no man at all. After the ball, one by one, days, weeks, months, each of her sisters got married, and Ada was left alone, single to stupor. Ada was the only single girl in her age group that was still unmarried. This caused a lot of pain and sorrow for her. No man looked aside, and she didn't know why. She couldn't understand. Soon, old men started seeking her hand in marriage. Of course, Ada refused, because how can she marry someone older than her own father? She was made fun of. Girls did not even greet her anymore, even though she was older than them, and courtesy demanded that they showed her some level of respect. But instead, they insulted Ada from time to time. Her sisters were all in their husband's home, and none of them could keep her company. Her father was already getting old, and there was no one to take care of him. After so many failed relationships and situationships, Ada decided to focus on herself and her father. She took care of her father, provided for him, took over his businesses for several years. Her father eventually fell ill, but this illness was not caused by a deadly disease. This was simply old age catching up with him. Years ago, she had lost her mother, and so she was already accustomed to pain. She did all she could for her father, called different medicine men, paid huge sum of money. Thankfully, she could afford that because her father was wealthy, but all to no avail. One morning, the palm fronds in her compound stood still and sent chills down her spine. Her father was dead, laying peacefully on his bed. She quickly wiped her tears off, called her uncles, told them what had happened, and they prepared for the burial. All her sisters came and assisted her with the burial and taking care of the whole ceremony. After the ceremony, Ada settled in to a life of a spinster. She started taking care of her father's businesses. She was wealthy, in all honesty, but that was not what she wanted. She wanted a man who would love her, a man who would be beside her while she handled her father's businesses. But sadly, that did not happen for Ada. All she met were men who wanted to take advantage of her. Eventually, she met Eche. Eche was not from their town. He was a good-looking man and possessed all the qualities that Ada wanted in a man. They met in the village square, where Efe was purchasing some very expensive fabrics. Ada took a liking to him and they started having a conversation. And before anything, Ada was already so in love with this man that she was willing to marry him. But Efe did not propose. One day, Efe rushed into the house. Ada asked, "What is it, my love?" Efe said, "Ada, I really need some money now. My goods have been held hostage by my village security. They are not allowing my goods to enter into the market until I pay this huge sum of money. I have spent all my money in the business that I do not have any money to spare now." Ada counted the huge sum of money, amounting to over 3 million naira. She gave it to him, and that was the last time she saw Efe. So she had had her own fair experiences. She had had her own fair share of heartbreaks. And so she had decided to stay and take care of her father's legacy. Ada's uncle, Amadi, saw how much Ada was earning from her father's businesses and became angry. He thought that if Ada had married and my brother died, all this wealth would have been mine. But Ada decided to stay here, a spinster, and be in possession of the wealth that was supposed to be mine. Then Amadi plotted. He plotted with the chief in council, and they summoned Ada to the king's palace. The king said, "Ada, it has come to my notice that you, a woman, is in possession of so many lands, which is very, very abominable in our land. Men are supposed to be in charge of all these properties and a woman as a support system. It's either you find a man that will marry you within 14 days or you hand over everything to your uncle Amadi." Ada was sad. How will I find a man who would marry me within 7 days? And I cannot give my properties to Amadi, my uncle. He never worked for anything. Everything this business is today is because of my hard work and perseverance. Ada said to herself. She walked away from the palace feeling sad, overpowered, and withdrawn. She didn't know what to do going forward. And so, she walked down the village path in a lonely and sad mood. She decided to go to her friend's place at the market. Her friend was a joyful widow who her husband had died when she just married him after a year. And she was still a widow. She hadn't remarried. Ada often saw her as someone who she could relate to, someone who she could explain how she felt, and the woman would understand. Ada went to her shop, where she sold woven baskets. She sat down with a cup of water and broke down crying. Ada said, "The king has asked me to get married within 7 days, or Amadi, my uncle, will take off everything I own. This is not fair. Women need to be treated better." A friend consoled her, wiped her tears, and thought of a way to help Ada overcome her problems. Then, immediately they were talking, a man came out and stood in front of them. "Hello, my name is Chike. I overheard your conversation, and I think I'll be willing to help you." Ada said, "Huh? You want to help me? How can you help me?" she asked him. He smiled. "We can get married within 7 days. You can keep your properties, and we'll still be single." Ada was even more confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean that I am Chike. I'm a wealthy son of a chief in the neighboring village. but I am not ready to settle down. But my father has been pressuring me to settle down ever since I became of age. So what are you proposing? Ada asked. I say we get married, but we would not be like husband and wife. We'll just be like friends living together. But we can be married. And then you keep your property and I save myself of the stress of having to explain to my father why I'm not married yet. Ada thought about it, but I don't even know you. You don't even need to know me. I do not have access to your properties. You don't have access to mine. This is just a marriage only on paper. Oledo, Ada's friend, told her, I know Chike. He seems to be a nice man and often comes here to buy from me. His idea isn't bad. You get to keep your property and he gets to live his life. Ada thought about it for days and nights. She sat in her house alone and she said to herself, well, I could do with some company. She finally accepted Chike's proposal. People thought Ada had used some voodoo on Chike because Chike was an extremely good-looking man, wealthy and handsome. So how did he end up with Ada, who was past her prime and already looking very shabby and chubby? People did not have an answer to that. On the day of the wedding, everyone was happy, dressed in the finest clothes because they were finally going to Ada's wedding, a wedding with a prominent and a rich suitor for that matter. Everyone was filled with excitement. Ada's sisters cooked different dishes for their guests and everyone ate to the full. Months after the wedding, Chike and Ada decided to make their marriage a real one, all to the anger of her uncle Amadi. Amadi was furious because he thought that Ada would never find a suitor, but was shocked when eventually Ada got married. He was filled with envy and anger and plotted on how to still make his dreams come true. In the 6th month of Ada's marriage, Ada became pregnant. She was so happy that finally she and Chike would have someone that they could call their offspring. Amadi came in the guise that he is a changed man. He begged Ada for forgiveness and promised to be a father figure to her. Ada agreed, accepted his apology, and hugged him dearly. Amadi plotted heavily. He knew that Ada usually visited a maternity home in the village health center, and so he planned with the nurses there, gave them a huge sum of money so that they could abort Ada's baby. His plan was that, if Ada does not have a child, that means eventually her husband will leave her. When Ada visited the hospital, she was given her usual treatment, so she thought. But when she got home, she started bleeding heavily and she unfortunately miscarried. Amadi was so joyous. He pretended to be remorseful and sad about Ada's situation. He consoled her and promised her that another would come. But another he was waiting so he could also terminate the pregnancy. Chike took good care of Ada. He consoled her and promised her that a child would definitely come. Ada wasn't happy, but slowly and surely she started going back to her usual self, a cheerful and loving woman. One day, as Oledo, Ada's friend, was purchasing materials for her business in the market, she lost her way because she wasn't accustomed to this particular market she had gone to. It was in another town and she didn't know her way properly. She followed a narrow path and overheard two women discussing about how to share money a man named Amadi had paid them for their job at a hospital in their village, Ife. Oledo was shocked. She started to calculate, is this not the same Amadi, Ada's uncle, that these people will be talking about? Oledo rushed home, called the attention of Chike, explained all her suspicions to him. Chike handled it immediately. He called the police, informed them of everything, and through his connections, they arrested the two women, and they finally confessed that Amadi Ada's uncle paid them heavily to terminate her pregnancy. Ada was sad and she wept because this was her family, a man she saw as her father, a man she treated like a father, had harmed her unborn child and eventually killed her child. Amadi was charged with murder. Alongside the two nurses, they were sentenced to prison. The chief and the king and his council of elders ostracized Amadi and wanted nothing to do with him anymore. Ada and Chike eventually had 3 more children and were happy all the rest of their lives. Moral of the story: God's time is the best. Even if you don't believe in God, surely timing has a very significant meaning in our lives. When the time is right, things will definitely work for our good. Lesson number 2: love keeps us together. Even if we've been hurt before, love will definitely heal our heart. If you've learned other lessons from this, drop them in the comment section. Thank you for watching, and until next time, bye.